Hello viewers for the channel. This is Marcelo from ACFM Gaming, and I know that it has been a long while since I made a video, so I'm going to begin, or in this case, relink with you guys, doing something familiar, and at the same time show you what I have been up to. So it's in a way kind of like a little bit of a channel update, and also more of the same thing that we all like. So, as you might be aware, um, this channel, um, kind of like its main thing is to talk about fleet compositions and how to practically use them in an actual game. Now, of course, there's many kind of like game modes that you can have in Space Engineers, and I do have to say that I design things, ships and stations and stuff like that, but mostly ships. Um, More for kind of curated kind of games. So it's not the full-on PvP survival, free for all that we were accustomed a few years ago, but more, like I said, curated experiences in which you have like a set of goals in a server, maybe even specific factions. Those are fun when players are organized and have these sessions, and especially for me at least, now that I don't have all of the time that I could dedicate for this game. They're quite handy. So what we have here, it's in a way kind of like a reduction of my familiar fleet, and as you can see there's 5 vessels, and I am counting 3 main ships. The bigger one, the on the top left of the screen right now, the Aries Mark II, the medium one, the Triton class destroyer, and then the light one, the Diana class frigate. And the 2 remaining ones are a Corvette and a gunship, or a patrol boat, or a light attack craft, or a fast attack craft, however you want to call them. So, no, that doesn't mean that they're less important or anything like that, but one of the things that I have been kind of like moving towards is simplifying the fleet to make it more kind of like easy to maintain for me, because I do like to upgrade my designs as during their lifetime. I only build a new ship when I feel that that hull cannot actually, let's say, support weapon systems, features, tools that are added to the game. And since the game has pretty much remained kind of like the same, feature wise, for years actually, so that's why you see kind of like upgraded hulls. So the first 2, the big one, the Aries and the Triton, are upgraded hulls, and the remaining ones are new hulls, and I'll show you why. So let's begin at the bottom. So down here we have what I called the Bullfrog light attack craft or patrol craft, and this is a replacement for actually 3 classes of ships that I had. Basically, if you look into my workshop, it's all the small ones, all the small large grid ones, and this is an assault gunship in the sense that it can carry people around, and it can also there's some light attack, and it also has missiles. These are the tiny missiles that I have been working on, and this is going to be perhaps the first big topic of this video. PMWs, they have evolved a lot, and they are right now at this stage extremely dangerous, and by vanilla weapons near impossible to intercept if they use any kind of erratic pattern, or in this case I'm using WMI, Whiplash's scripts to run this, and they have a feature that is it's called spin, or he sometimes calls them drunk mode, and that makes the missiles have this spiral pattern, and they're basically impossible to intercept by vanilla turrets. I mean, we all know that. I don't have to to be perhaps too harsh on Keen's turret AI in that regard. I mean, we all have experienced its inadequacy for that. So The big thing with this ship is actually that it's rather small. It's a large grid that makes it more durable. It's not going to die if a small grid with a Gatling wall just like blows at it. I have no idea why I'm closing those. And the way of doing that is this quite neat feature that our friend Seth developed, and is having the airlock in the back. Now this is quite similar to the first time that I saw this in science fiction was, I think, the Nostromo, the escape shuttle, the Narcissus, if I'm not mistaken, had an entrance in the back, and you can just like deploy them, shoot it out, or let it fall out, kind of like a missile. So having the airlock assembly like this basically saves you an entire compartment or an entire like section of the ship, makes it shorter, and that's a big deal, a big volume saver for small ships. Just giving you a small tour here, so you can see that it has this kind of like passenger bay that vents out, hence the whole assault gunship thing. Now, in a server, in the context of the game, this is quite useful, especially starting out. You can move people around, move some cargo, defend against basic threats, explore, find ore deposits, and it can still be relevant since it has these missiles that can intercept, for example, small grids, or even do some minor damage to larger grids. Now, moving on, we have the Corvette, the Siren class Corvette, and this is perhaps one of the favorite ships that I have ever made, because I managed to make a really compact large grid ship that looks, I guess, quite nice. I mean, subjectively, of course, and it has all the features that I like in a ship this size. Beginning from the aft section, we have attachments for the jump ring that I use, so you can extend the range. But I mean, as you can see, it only has 2 merge blocks, unlike the rest of the ships over there that have 4. So basically, what that means is that you can attach 2 of these to a single jump ring. That was actually Crazy Doc's idea, and I decided to put it in practice. And yeah, so thank you, Doc, for that. Now, keeping in the same section, it has a decoy dispenser, and this is a large decoy dispenser. It is perhaps one of the simplest kind of decoy dispensers that you're gonna see there. Ideally, if you want a decoy dispenser to be let's say very useful, or more useful at negating the entire the entirety of the enemy turrets in an area, you may want to have to do subgrids, both small and large grids, to cover if even in case the turrets are set to target only small grids or set to target only large grids. And I have to say, I do that. For example, my larger caliber guns, I set them to target only large grids, and I have some dedicated point defense turrets, or like in a way anti-small craft, anti-small grid defensive turrets. So you may want to use a combination of those things, but I wanted to have something simple that would go in conjunction with the whole corkscrew orbiting maneuver that I like to do when I'm fighting in general. And that also keeps this ship relevant after you have built larger grids or larger ships, destroyers, cruisers, and battleships, and so on, because this thing can orbit a target and begin deploying those decoys and annoy it, and spray it with some fast firing guns, and also doing some damage with this two chin mounted 230 millimeter batteries. So this one distracts the enemy ship, while bigger ships like the Frigate and especially the destroyer do their thing attacking it. Now at this point, you may have noticed that I'm talking about fleet synergy. So eventually you will use these ones as fighters, or use those to replace small grid fighters, and then use these ones to be in a way moving decoys, and they rely more on their speed to actually try not to get hit. The idea behind this thing is that you can kite at a distance from the enemy ship, basically outside of the range of the weapons, but can actually intercept a fast ship like a Corvette. So you can enter, the range of larger batteries, but is ill-advised to enter the range of, point defense, or especially these ones right here. And now this is a perfect segue to talk about the mods that I'm using here. It's basically just one. Is the OKI Grande weapons pack. Is the one kept by Seth, and he pays a lot of attention to balance and to make each weapon fit a specific niche that allows you to create different kinds of ships. And that's the other thing, the other main topic in this video. It's one that we have talked about before, and it's modern weapons, and that is the acknowledgement. Again, it's not a secret that in the basic vanilla game you don't have variety at all, and also the vanilla rockets, they're just bad. They're really, and I've seen that some people try to basically plaster a ship with rocket turrets and go on full 18th century warfare, a large broad set of rockets, but then again they end up missing all those salvos, and you see like rockets flying, exploding, lagging around, and not actually having much effect. So we reach the point again in which I'm going to make that claim. After Frigate class, you really don't get much out of those rockets. You can have a large hull plastered with rocket turrets, and that doesn't make it a battleship. It's just a bigger ship with a lot of rockets. And now that only leaves PMWs. So basically, it's kind of like, in a way, modern warfare. It's just a larger ship with more missiles in it, and that's fine. I mean, that part is fine. But what that does is, if you combine that, the lethality, the compactness of, present-day PMWs in the Space Engineers, with the lack of any realistic point defense from the vanilla turrets, so basically you're gonna have like a missile fest, and eventually, whoever's gonna win is the one that actually has some ship or some part of a ship remaining. That is not that that much fun. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a in a way I can only equate it to the auto resolve from strategy games, in which like at the end you see, oh wow, how did I lose all those units, why? And you don't have kind of like much control over that. So it's basically just pressing the buttons, looking at the missiles flying. In any case, so let's continue. This Corvette serves that purpose. Moving fast, moving around. It's also kind of like a personal ship. It's fun to fly around. It's really fast, agile. You can do several things with it. You can do capture cargo ships, do some scouting exploration, salvage some derelicts. And we move on to the frigate. Now, this frigate, the Diana class, has actually quite an interesting story that I'm going to spare you from that because it's a little bit long. But the thing is, it's designed to do kind of like the same that the Corvette does, with that whole orbiting corkscrew maneuver, but at the same time, it adds some frigate capacities to the hull. It has longer range, with jump drives, more cargo capacity, space for more people. But the big thing is that it's designed, or rather it's riding this large capital class nacelle. And what this does, having that large retro thruster and that large ventral thruster, is that you can actually move backwards a little bit, like basically control the distance better from the enemy ship. With the Corvette, it's more about doing passes, releasing the decoys and getting out if you need to. This one has a single railgun in it. So the idea here is that you do some fine control maneuvering, kiting around, and aim carefully for the ship's systems that you want to destroy. Now that's possible. I have, I mean, not bragging, I have managed to do some kind of precise, let's say, firing in the battle tests that we have done, but I am not that great of a shot. So maybe somebody with better piloting skills, some more accuracy, more practice, can achieve that. But I mean, if I manage to do that, like from the point of okay, I want to hit that turret, and I actually hit the turret with a railgun, then yeah, definitely, you guys out there that have more PvP experience can definitely do that more consistently. So this is an attack frigate. It, I mean, lore-wise and also design-wise, it combines many features of different frigates from, some of my favorite games. But mostly, it's an attack frigate. As you can see, it's very beefy. It's almost as wide as it is tall and maybe long also. So it's very chunky. It has a lot of spaced, quote-unquote, space armor, like empty void spaces inside. It has some heavy armor in the nose. I haven't done the heavy armoring fully yet because I have yet to battle test it. Basically what I do is the blocks that get destroyed during a battle, those are the ones that I tend to reinforce with heavy armor. So it's meant, to fight front towards enemy. Main battery, I mean, besides the spinal mount railgun, is this giant 230 supported by these 122s. Now the 122s excel at hunting corvettes and gunboats, so any ship below this frigate, like those two over there, that gets within the 122 range is really gonna get it. Now these ones are to supplement the railgun if you get a little bit too close, or to also, to bully those smaller ships. Neither one of these ships up to this point is meant to be used alone. So yeah, fleet synergy, like what I was talking about. And the idea with this frigate is, keeping on the classic role of frigates, to be an escort. It has very good coverage with the seaweeds or the anti-small craft guns. So you can see they're the highest, or the outermost, mounted turrets. You can fire fully backwards and towards the front. They have great depression and great elevation. That's why I have that slant over there. Okay, let's move on to the destroyer. This is the first ship that I started modifying after the my hiatus in the channel, and this actually comes from a nymph class hull, which was a frigate that I made a while ago. The idea that I had was that I wanted to make an economical ship that had a lot of firepower, so something along the lines of a glass cannon. And yeah, I do tend to kind of like lean heavy into that. Like I like my ships to be faster. I do remember a while ago when I think it was Craig Perko, back when I used to play with in his sessions, he said that speed is cheap, and I kind of like adhere to that. So with the destroyer, I wanted to have a ship that was able to be maintained by the same crew that a frigate has. That would be between 1 and 3 people, realistically in a server. Most likely around 2 people, and that is not a chore to work with, and that can actually deal some firepower above to larger ships, so punching up above its weight. So I basically, what I did was I widened the hull a little bit and definitely elongated it. The idea with this is that this hull eventually is going to have decoy dispensers on the nose, the kind of create a cloud, and you can dip in kind of like the bow of the ship and shoot these railguns at the maximum range towards the enemy ship, towards larger ships. Because with this destroyer, I mean, still a glass cannon, you don't want to get way too close into the range of things like cruisers or battleships, but you can definitely damage them. That's why it has this capital class brawling battery. The ship can brawl, not for long, but it can. It can definitely destroy everything below her class. On top of that, it has 6 missile launchers that can be converted into housing those smaller missiles. So that would give a total of, I think it was, oh my god, my math, I'm forgetting it. Let's just say like around 24 of those small missiles. And if you configure your firing control system well, you can actually convert this thing into an escort ship and automate the launching of the missiles so they intercept all the PMWs. Keynote there, if you want to intercept PMWs with another PMW, you should definitely use smaller missiles, not these ones. Otherwise, you're kind of like matching the cost of the enemy missiles, and you're not like gaining. You're not making the enemy waste resources. Okay, this ship at this point it has all of the features that my old cruisers had, just in a more compact hull. That, of course, in the way Space Engineers works with damage, makes it more fragile, but that's the whole idea. And that is, again, one of the other topics that I want to bring up is when do you cap, or when do you basically stop making ships of a particular size realistically in a server. That's why I don't have a classic cruiser in this lineup here. I jump straight into the battleship thing, or class, because honestly, like what I said before, like what are you going to be doing mostly in a gaming session is repairing the ships, and these ships are all meant to go into combat and get damage. That's why I usually build heavy noses, reinforced bows. The nacelles are also reinforced. The retro thrusters are very deep. Self-repair welding systems in the main batteries. All of that to make that repair easier, to make the ship last longer. But yeah, at the end of the day, what you're gonna do is you're gonna be using your hand welder, trying to dig inside of the ship to find that damage conveyor. That's really annoying. Unless you use a mod like the whole nanite repair system thing, then yeah, that's not an issue. But if you want to keep your game mostly vanilla, that's quite a chore, and it gets old really, really fast. So that's what I was going for, because I remember my experience of fighting with the Calypso, that I started as a destroyer and then I enlarged it to the point of being kind of like a light cruiser. And it was such a pain to just maintain and repair. Same story for larger, small grids. So that was the idea here. Make something that is high damage, speed, and easy to maintain. So it's fun to play with. Now moving on, actually let me take a step back. We have these 3 ships here, and this represents my philosophy of number 3. Everybody likes a number 3. It's easy to handle, light, medium, and heavy. So the frigate, light escort or light combat ship, can destroy everything below her, but needs to be supported to destroy something above. The destroyer can actually punch about its weight, but needs to do it in conjunction with another one or escorting a larger ship. So we have the synergy there, and they can all be flown in a similar way by the battleship. Now when we reach the battleship, this is the Mark II version of my Aries class. It's still an experiment. I like flying it. It's really fun to play with it. Now realistically, I don't see myself building it in a multiplayer session. I know it's possible, but again, this is a multi-crew ship, and it has a size, and I'm not talking about the length and measurements. Let's say the size in the maintenance that it needs. Like it's a lot. So it requires a lot of resources to build, a lot of resources to maintain, especially it has a lot of heavy armor. I try to just build an armor citadel mostly inside of the ship and protruding in some areas like the nose, the retro thrusters, and these I call them bastions that hold the main battery. But still, it's a lot of surface area to take, to receive projectiles, a lot of damage to be repaired. This is the size of a faction base ship, or like a main, faction ship or station, if you will. So this is at the cost of a collective endeavor. And actually, Seth was talking to me about it the other day, and it's really, really not at the point in which just one person is gonna fly it. And what if that one person just crashes it, or like completely loses it? Then all the efforts of the faction are gonna go to waste. So ideally, again, this kind of like circles back to the whole curated game session, in which having battleships or having ships this size are necessarily going to be the kind of like the consensus of a group of people. Now, what I would rather do is have this block allowance PCU, if you use that, to be better spent in having a faction base production ship that you need to protect, or like a command ship that is not meant to take direct combat, and make a smaller, more compact escort, kind of like a battleship version of this thing, this destroyer right here. That's something that I'm thinking about developing, maybe. But at this point, this size of ship, at least for me, still remains more of like kind of like a lore character, if you will, rather than an actually useful ship. So yeah, that's why I built a destroyer with cruiser weaponry. And here, if you notice, kind of like the firepower of this destroyer is doubled by the one on the battleship. Only that the battleship can fire fully, 360 degrees. It has basically duplicated the destroyer batteries forward and backwards. So this kind of like justifies her existence in the way that it can protect the fleet that is commanding. But still, like I said before, it's kind of like an experiment, and I would just build this one. Now, as for the features of the Aries, it retains the Mark I's forward battery, only that it has been converted to railguns, and this amazing cowling was made by Seth. It really is really distinct and brings the ship and makes it stand out. I have worked in this kind of like armor belt to protect sensitive areas, especially around the forward section. Now the 230 battery, 230mm battery, can fire fully backwards. In the Mark 1 version it couldn't. Secondary battery is 122, so can deal with corvettes that get too close. The missiles are now decentralized in these missile tubes. These kind of like blisters here, and here. And of course they're, I think, quadrupling in capacity. Now Ardav's fleet command is built in this ship, so this can actually command drones. I've been experimenting with that. And it also has production capabilities and the same hangar as the base Mark 1 version. It's just that it's more streamlined, better protected, and it now has welding features, welding capacities to actually rearm 2 bombers, or actually rearm all the fighters that you dock in here. That you just have to bring them in here, weld, and then move sideways this way. And this, they used to be the quote-unquote drop pod bay, now it's a utility bay, and you can put in utility craft to repair the ship, salvage, or mine, whatever you want to do with small grid utility ships. And well, before I go, I'm gonna give you a sneak peek at the CIC, which is something that I'm quite pleased with. Just take this lights off. Yeah, keeping in my philosophy with the CIC that there's like this overlap of information, which you have like one captain and two other operators, one pilot, one helmsman, and then a tactical officer. So all the information is displayed here. You can fly this ship by yourself if you want. See all the things. And this person sees the flight relevant information, and this one sees the utility and damage control and radar information. So there you have it. That has been kind of like a sneak peek slash short tour, quote unquote short, of what I have been doing, and I hope to see you again and bring you more content, and yeah, like open the discussion on those topics. So let me know what you guys think. Take care and keep playing, and if you like the video, don't forget to the good old like, subscribe, and especially let me know your thoughts on the matter.